In the late 1970s, the Indo-Chinese boat people arrived. With their arrival, a new chapter in Canadian newcomer history began. It would also be the moment when faith groups found they could reach out to the plight of others, no matter what their faith background.
The boat people were fleeing to Indochina, and they were living in refugee camps, and there was a worldwide appeal. St. Teresa's answered that and said that they would bring a family in, a family of 5. And eventually we did get a family, a Tran family, and they came into Halifax, and the church rallied behind them. We raised all the money that was needed.
There was all the news for 6 weeks about the boat people campaign, the boat people and what was happening to them, and nothing being done, apparently. And I became concerned that nothing was being done, lest we have a repeat of what happened to the Jews. There was a resonance of the Jews going on boats and not being admitted, and here were people on boats, and would they be admitted or not?
I remember in '79, when there was so much need out in Southeast Asia, on which the cameras focused a lot, about which our government scrambled, that I lost the summer's holidays. And my wife said, can't you finish your meal and have the guy call back? Because every would-be sponsor knew nothing about it and had all kinds of questions. And I was winging it, because I didn't have experience other than immigrant experience, but not with people of another culture, not with people from that particular situation of extreme need.
Archbishop Plourde, he and the lay people here were largely responsible for this whole program of accepting the refugees, the boat people, back like 13 years ago or so. And they did a wonderful job of welcoming many of the boat people who came to Ottawa and stayed in Ottawa. The Archbishop adopted one of them, you know, himself. He adopted one of these people. Yeah, raised him as his son, you know.
I remember I was in the Development and Peace group in Lourdes Parish in downtown Toronto, and we, of course, were very issue-oriented, more than we were personal care-oriented. But because we were issue-oriented, one of the Jesuits on the staff challenged us to accept responsibility for, in that case, it was a refugee from Laos who'd been in a camp for a long time. So I remember all us issue-oriented types ended up running the parish bazaar because we needed to raise the money for a year's rent for this family when it came. And it was very funny because it got us much closer to the grassroots life of the parish.
I had the experience, for example, of going my first visit to the Vietnamese parish. They insisted I have to say something in Vietnamese. So I wrote out a paragraph, I had it translated, and then I had somebody help me pronounce each word. And they're real tongue twisters. Anyway, I got to the point where I could pronounce each word to my teacher's satisfaction. Then I started saying them all together, and he said, no. I said, now what's the matter? He said, tone. You see, each word can mean 5 different things depending on the tone of voice. And so we were stuck. So I drew a music staff and we put notes on there. I sang my little message. He said, perfect. He says, now don't sing it, say it. I tried, I couldn't. So I went into church and I sang my little message, and they just roared, they loved it.
Thousands and thousands of boat people came to Canada, and together with a number of spokespersons for various churches and inter-church agencies, we met then with the External Affairs Minister, Flora MacDonald, and urged her to help reduce the red tape that churches and other sponsoring groups were confronted with, and she was of immense help. and warmly welcomed our active participation in making it possible for these boat people to come to Canada, to be welcomed by our various faith communities, and to be integrated into the communities where they lived.
And what we did is got together in very short order, a couple of days, the priest up at the local church, the minister of the Anglican Church on the hill, another minister from another Anglican church, the two rabbis from the synagogues on Bathurst, and some parishioners and local counselor. And we thought reasonably between the churches and synagogues in the area and the neighborhood groups, we could get maybe 50 families. And so that's we ended up agreeing to sponsor 50 families, and therefore began what became Operation Lifeline, the big campaign to organize the admission of boat people into Canada. We ended up with 66 chapters of Operation Lifeline right across Canada. Probably totaled about 160,000 people we took from Indochina.
The arrival of the boat people into Canada was evidence of this country's potential for generosity. It was also the moment when the leaders of Canada's different faith groups knew that they could work together effectively on behalf of the world's displaced peoples, especially those who had found their way to Canada's borders in search of refuge and a new start.
In the staging and development of cooperation among faith groups and various religious denominations, etc., the Indo-Chinese movement was a unique experience in bringing them all together. We'd go to rallies 2 times, 3 times an evening, all over the province, driving here and there as a mad time, in which you'd give a speech and tell people how to sponsor, do the same routine virtually every day. And after one of these in Kitchener, with a Mennonite ran up to me and gave me a big hug and hugged me. He said, "Isn't it great when a Mennonite can hug a Jew and they join hands to sponsor a Buddhist?" And I think it summarized the whole thing about that movement, that which faith you belong to, whether you were Jewish, Christian, secular, religious, didn't seem to matter. What mattered was that you had an opportunity to help others, and you did, and you had a vehicle to do it.